Man, these brakes and these tires are gripping so good on this nasty stuff. So I finally got out on the eRide Pro out on some trails, and let me tell you, this was absolutely awesome. Last week, if you guys watched the episode, I installed some new tires on this, the Dunlop MX33s. These things were a lifesaver out there on the trail. It was super muddy, and there's no way I could have done it with the stock tires. If you guys are new to this channel, welcome. This is my brand new eMoto channel, and the eRide Pro SS 3.0 is the bike I chose to start off with. And let me tell you, this bike absolutely rips. In one episode, I installed this ECD wrap, and then I put on those tires. We've got so many more things I want to do to this bike in the future. You guys are definitely going to want to stick around. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you're experienced with eMotos, definitely tag along and let me know what I do right and what I do wrong. So I actually wound up taking this out to a trail system called Soggy Bottoms. It's located in Sparta, Missouri. It's about 45 minutes away from where I currently live. And it really, truly lived up to its name. This thing was soaking wet. The trail was absolutely muddy, but my goodness, it was a ton of fun. Me, my father-in-law Jim, and my daughter's boyfriend Cody went out there and took my father-in-law side by side, and I took the eRide Pro. And for both of us, it was kind of a new experience. Jim had ridden out there before, and I had been with him a long time ago, but we couldn't remember the trails at all. So this was like going out there for the very first time. And it's been a while since he took out his buggy on the trails, so being wet and being unfamiliar with the trails, it was definitely an experience for both of us. Now, I learned 3 valuable lessons with the eRide Pro whenever I went out there, and that's what I want to share with you guys today. Lesson number 1, a lot of people already do as soon as they get their eRide Pros, and that is the sensors that come on these brake levers. They shut off the motor the second that you barely touch the brakes. And I personally kept these on because I felt safer with them while I was learning how to ride it. But I did find out whenever you're out on the trail and you're in a certain situation, like maybe going up a steep hill where it's really loose, you don't have the ability to give it a little bit of throttle and let go of the brake. Where if you have these brake sensors on and you give it a little bit of throttle and then you let go of the brake, it lurches forward and almost gets away from you. And I learned my lesson several times with that. And here's kind of a good example of exactly what I went through. I didn't want to stop, but I did. So this may not be coming through very well in the video, but what's happening here is I got stuck, I got a little nervous, and I came to a complete stop in an uphill that's really loose. Well, what I want to do is be able to slightly hold on to my brakes and build up a little bit of throttle and slowly let out on the brakes. But with the actual brake cutoffs, that's not possible, and the bike would just spin out or lurch forward. So I haven't fully investigated on how to remove the sensors, but I do know that this is the sensor itself. It connects right here to the brake, and it also connects down in here before it gets to the controller. I want to fully remove this entire wire. I don't want to just disconnect it down below. And this is on both brakes. So whenever I remove this, when I pull the brakes, the only thing that the brake is going to do is act like a typical brake. It's going to pull that caliper against the disc. It's no longer going to cut off the motor. So I am going to have to be extra careful, but I think it's going to help me a lot whenever I go out on the trail. Now, the next big thing that I learned from this is the weight of this bike and the momentum. Having the proper momentum whenever you're going up a hill was extremely important. Out there at Soggy Bottoms, it was super loose and super muddy. And if I lost any momentum like I did in this upcoming shot, I just completely stopped. And to get going again was really challenging. The weight of the bike adds to a lot of that challenge. When I got done with this ride, my upper body was super sore. Now, you guys know that I do a lot of e-mountain biking. And if you didn't know, I've got another channel called Run Bike Mike. And over there, I do a lot of e-bike reviews, but it's primarily a mountain biking and e-mountain biking channel. And I've ridden tons and tons of trails, thousands of miles. And on a regular bike, you can flick those bikes around, lift them up, move them really easily. Not with an eMoto. So when I go back and I watch videos of people actually riding these things and popping them up over logs and over rocks, I am now extremely impressed and have a ton of respect for people that can control these things, especially those full-size motos. That's absolutely mind-blowing. Here's a few clips of me kind of getting stuck and learning that I needed to keep the momentum going. God, it's so tricky to like not overdo it and lose control. Okay, got it. Got it. All right. This is really cool. I'm super glad I got this, but man, I have so much to learn, guys. Just control of the throttle, control of the brakes, control of such a heavy bike. I know this isn't heavy in motocross world, but it's heavy for somebody coming from mountain bikes, especially XC mountain bikes, which I like to ride, which come in like in the 20-pound range. So this is definitely heavy to me. And of course, as with mountain bikes, momentum makes a difference. And the next thing that I learned that's really important is your choice of tires really is important depending on your area that you're riding and the type of terrain that you're going to be riding. Those original tires really would not have cut it. As you guys can see, the areas that I'm going to be riding could be absolutely muddy or they could possibly be dry. So I think these Dunlop MX33s were the absolute right choice. So those are the three things that I learned on my very first ride. And I've got to say, I had an absolute blast riding. Now, some of you guys may be looking at this saying, wow, you're really not going all that fast. And you're right, I'm learning. This is brand new to me. If this was a mountain bike, I would be flying down those trails. But with eMoto, it being heavier, unfamiliar with it, the throttle and the brake sensors make it all for a new learning experience for me. If you guys have any tips, if you see anything in this video whenever I'm riding of what I could do better or something that would help me and improve my riding style, I would really appreciate it. Okay guys, I want to show you a few pieces of the gear that I used whenever I was on my ride. These things were really nice to have, but one of them took me just a little bit of time to get used to, but in the end, I was super grateful that I had them. First up are these Maverick Enduro boots made by Fly Racing. These things are super rigid, and I was a little bit concerned because I couldn't feel the pegs underneath my feet. Is that something normal with these? Because after a little bit of riding, I got used to it and I felt really comfortable. But when I first got on the bike, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't feel the pegs at all. But I do have to say, I'm super grateful that I had these on. Because at one point on the ride, the bike actually fell over and my leg was kind of stuck between the side of the hill and the bike. And if I didn't have these boots on, I have a feeling my ankle would be hurting really bad. So having moto boots was a huge payoff. I think I only paid around $100 for these. I'll have to put a link in the description below. So if you guys are new or in need of a new pair of boots, you might check these out. So far, they're working really well for me. Next up is this Troy Lee helmet. I really like Troy Lee design stuff. I've been using it for years with mountain biking. I like their jerseys, their clothes, and I like all of their helmets. So this one was a must-have for me. This was fairly inexpensive and I just picked it up off of Amazon. It's definitely not like a $300 or $400 helmet, and you can tell because it is a little bit heavy, but I think for my very first one, this was a pretty good choice. So this particular Troy Lee design is the SE4, and I am wearing a size large. I actually ordered a medium because that's what my head actually measured out to fit, but when I got it, it was way too tight. This large is actually pretty tight also, but I think as I get going with it, it's gonna break in just a little bit. So the last thing I want to show you guys for my gear are these Havoc goggles. These are pretty cool goggles. I bought these for this specific reason. The lenses are magnetic and they're interchangeable. So I have a pair that will work in bright sunlight, and I also have these clear lenses. Now I do have to say they did start to fog up just a little bit, and what I did is I just popped the lens off and I wound up riding without the lens. So for about half of my ride, this worked really well. And I think also if I was moving at a faster pace, I wouldn't have to worry about these fogging up as much. But since we were new at this and we were kind of taking our time trying to learn the trail and learn both of our vehicles, we were taking it pretty slow and playing it safe. So these Havoc goggles are absolutely awesome. They are not cheap. I want to say I paid about $110 for them. So there you go. That was my very first official ride out on the eRide Pro. And I've got to say, I love this bike. I can't wait for more adventures, whether those adventures are with my father-in-law and his side-by-side, or whether it's me going out on some single track trail on one of the local trails that I've got my eye on. But you guys are gonna wanna stick around because next week, I'm gonna be going over some suspension stuff that I've learned, and also I'm gonna be adding these items here. Some hand guards that are orange and black, and then I'm also gonna add some of this flat out sealant to both of my tires. I really don't wanna have to worry about getting a flat out on a trail, and if I'm really honest with you, the front tire has a slow leak, and this flat out will hopefully fix that. Let me know in the comments below if you guys use hand guards or if you use flat out on your bike. All right, guys, if you are loving this content and you want to see more, make sure you subscribe, share this video out to your friends. That really helps out my channel and I greatly appreciate it. I am super stoked to be riding the eRide Pro and I want to share that excitement with you. Again, if you're new at this, come along with me and let's learn together. If you're a pro at this, give us some advice, let us know what we could do better or some tips to help us out along our journey. And don't forget, if you guys want to pick up your eRide Pro, go check out Rev Rides, use my coupon code below, and you can get a set of Warp 9 pegs for absolutely free. All right, guys, get out there and ride your eMoto, preferably the eRide Pro SS 3.0.
Thought you was a threat. I do real life, do no tip for tat on the internet. We don't do that.